The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was unlike anything on Earth, a massive dome of shimmering crystal and metal, floating silently above a distant planet in the Veil Nebula. Inside, hundreds of alien representatives gathered, each from different worlds, colors, and shapes, their voices mixing in strange languages, punctuated by moments of silence heavy with tension. At the center stood Ambassador Elaine Voss, the sole human voice among the sea of eyes and tentacles, her posture steady despite the weight she carried. For years, humanity had been the rising star of the galaxy, a species known for its boldness, curiosity, and rapid progress. But tonight, the atmosphere was thick with unease. The Council had called this emergency session in secrecy, a sign that something terrible was about to be decided. The head of the Council, a towering figure named Krylax, spoke with cold authority, his voice echoing through the chamber. After careful deliberation, the Galactic Council has reached a verdict on the matter of humanity. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Elaine, her heart pounding, but her face calm. Krylax continued, "We find that humanity's rapid expansion and unchecked innovation threaten the balance we have long maintained. Their influence disrupts the harmony among species, and their methods are reckless. Therefore, we decree that humanity is to be banned from all interstellar trade and communication. They will be excluded from all galactic systems until they prove they can govern their own development responsibly." A stunned hush spread across the hall. Whispers erupted. Some alien delegates nodded with approval. Others exchanged worried glances. Elaine felt a cold wave crash over her, but she did not speak. The decision was final. Her mind raced. What would this mean for Earth, for humanity's place among the stars? The meeting ended quickly, and Elaine left the chamber alone, the weight of the sentence heavy on her shoulders. Back on Earth, news of the ban spread like wildfire, sparking panic, disbelief, and anger among millions. Governments convened emergency meetings. Citizens gathered in streets, unsure whether to fight or despair. But in the heart of chaos, something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking apart, humanity began to unite. Old rivalries faded as people realized their future depended on standing together. Scientists doubled down on their research, determined to find new paths beyond alien technology. Engineers sketched new starship designs. Artists and thinkers inspired hope with their visions of a free humanity. Ambassador Voss returned to Earth and addressed the world, her voice steady and clear despite the shock. "We have been cast out," she said, "but this is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter. We will rise, not by asking for permission, but by proving that we belong. Together we will show the galaxy what it means to be human." As weeks passed, a surge of creativity and determination swept across continents. The ban that was meant to cripple humanity instead became the forge where its greatest strengths were born: resilience, unity, and unyielding hope. Unknown to the Council, Earth's brightest minds were already at work on something revolutionary, something that would challenge the very idea of exile. And so, while the galaxy watched in doubt and fear, humanity prepared not to beg for mercy, but to claim its future with courage and vision. The verdict had come, but the story was far from over. The shock of the Galactic Council's ban still echoed across Earth, but instead of fear and despair taking hold, something remarkable began to happen beneath the surface of human society, a quiet, steady transformation that would change everything. Where old divisions and rivalries once ruled, a new spirit of unity emerged, spreading like wildfire across nations, cultures, and communities. Leaders who had once been enemies now sat side by side in emergency meetings, not to argue, but to build a plan. Scientists who had worked in secret in isolated labs reached out to their peers around the world, sharing data and ideas with a new urgency. The media, once filled with sensationalism and division, began to broadcast stories of hope and collaboration. People everywhere, from crowded cities to small villages, felt an unspoken bond, as if the very fate of humanity depended on what they would do next. In the heart of this global shift was the formation of the Unified Horizon Accord, an unprecedented alliance that brought together the brightest minds and the boldest spirits to focus on one goal: to rebuild humanity's future. On Earth, without the help or influence of the alien civilizations that had once shaped their technology and knowledge. The Accord became a beacon of hope and determination, and its symbol, a rising sun over a horizon, was painted on walls, worn on clothes, and carried in the hearts of millions. Among the leaders of this new movement was Vera Kyle, a young engineer, known for her brilliant mind and fierce dedication. She had spent years studying alien propulsion systems, dreaming of faster-than-light travel. But now she faced a new challenge: to design a starship engine built entirely from human science and ingenuity. Vera knew the task was daunting. Without access to galactic technology, humanity was starting from scratch, forced to question every assumption and invent what others took for granted. Yet, in her workshop, surrounded by sketches, equations, and half-finished prototypes, she felt a strange excitement, the thrill of discovery born from necessity. Her team was small but passionate, a mix of engineers, physicists, and programmers who shared her belief that humanity could not only survive, but thrive. As the months passed, Project Lumen, the name given to their engine, slowly took shape. It was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, a blend of quantum physics, renewable energy, and innovative materials created from Earth's abundant resources. Yet progress was never easy. There were setbacks, long nights filled with frustration, and moments when failure seemed inevitable. Still, the team pushed forward, driven by something greater than technology, the hope of proving humanity's place among the stars. Beyond the labs, the world was changing too. Schools taught new generations the stories of unity and resilience. Artists painted murals of Earth rising above the shadows of exile. Musicians composed songs that echoed through crowded streets, lifting spirits and reminding people that they were not alone. And governments, once hesitant, now poured resources into the Accord, recognizing that cooperation was their only path forward. But not everyone welcomed these changes. In the shadows, some factions feared the power of a united humanity and sought to sabotage progress. Whispers of dissent and sabotage spread through the corridors of power, and Vera often found herself looking over her shoulder, wondering who might be watching. Despite these threats, the momentum was unstoppable. The world's eyes turned to the first prototype of the Lumen engine, hidden away in a secure facility deep beneath the Earth's surface. When the day came for its first test, crowds gathered across the globe, watching live broadcasts with bated breath. As the engine roared to life, a new hope burned brighter than ever, proof that exile had not broken humanity, but forged it anew in fire and determination. Meanwhile, Ambassador Elaine Voss, back from the council chambers, traveled the world, inspiring millions with her message of strength and unity. Her speeches, filled with quiet resolve and unwavering belief, reminded people that the true power of humanity lay not in alien technology or the approval of others, but in their courage to stand tall when the universe turned its back. And so, as Project Lumen moved closer to completion, Earth began to prepare not just to survive, but to reach for the stars once again, not as beggars seeking acceptance, but as pioneers ready to claim their place in the galaxy on their own terms. The forge of unity had been lit, and the future awaited those brave enough to step into the unknown. The day the Lumen Vanguard was ready to leave Earth, a hush fell over the world that felt almost sacred, as if all of humanity was holding its breath. waiting to see if this small but powerful starship could prove something no one had dared to imagine before, a future beyond exile. At the launch site, surrounded by gleaming towers and a swarm of cameras capturing every moment, Vera Kyle stood tall beside her crew, a team hand-picked from the best scientists, engineers and explorers Earth had to offer. Their faces showed a mix of nerves and quiet determination, aware that their mission was more than exploration. It was a message to the galaxy that humans were still here, still capable of greatness, even without the Council's blessing. The countdown began, voices echoed across every screen on Earth, and as the engines ignited with a roar unlike anything the world had heard, the ship lifted off smoothly, cutting through the atmosphere and heading into the black vastness of space. Inside the Vanguard, Vera monitored the systems, her eyes sharp but calm, as the ship accelerated beyond light speed using the revolutionary Lumen engine. Every blink of the console was a heartbeat in the race against doubt and fear. Weeks passed. As the Vanguard traveled through star systems never before visited by humans, sending back data and images that amazed and inspired people back home. But the real test came when the crew detected a massive object orbiting a distant dying star. A planet-sized machine, silent and mysterious, covered in strange markings and signs of a lost civilization. The discovery sent a shock through the team. As they cautiously approached, the ship's sensors revealed dormant energy signals, ancient but alive. Exploring this relic, Vera and her crew uncovered signs of a sentient presence, something that had watched over this machine for millennia. When they accidentally triggered its awakening, the entity introduced itself as Archivus, a guardian of knowledge from a civilization far older than any in the Galactic Council. Archivus spoke with a voice that echoed in their minds, sharing stories of galaxies born and lost, and warning of secrets the Council had hidden for centuries. This knowledge was forbidden because it could change the balance of power, and humanity's curiosity had threatened to expose it. The crew faced a choice: keep this discovery secret or share it with the galaxy and risk further conflict. But before they could decide, signals from other alien species began to arrive. Small delegations curious about the humans who dared to explore forbidden space. Messages of hope, doubt, and alliance filtered in, opening the door to a new chapter. Beyond isolation. Back on Earth, the world waited anxiously, watching every update, their pride swelling even as fear of retaliation loomed. The Lumen Vanguard had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of human spirit, bold, unyielding, and ready to uncover the truths the galaxy tried to hide. And as the crew prepared for their next step, they knew their journey was not just about technology or exploration, but about changing the story of humanity forever. The first flight had sparked a fire that no ban could extinguish, and the stars were no longer out of reach. They were calling. The news of the Lumen Vanguard's discovery spread through the galaxy like a slow-burning fire, reaching ears that had long felt silenced and eyes that had long watched in fear. And while the Galactic Council tried to downplay the event, whispers began to grow louder in hidden corners and distant worlds where species once forgotten by the mainstream gathered, quietly hoping for change. These were the outliers, the species who had lived on the edge of the Council's influence, watching as the ancient order tightened its grip, suppressing knowledge and forbidding progress that could upset the fragile balance they claimed to protect. And when the Vanguard's crew revealed Archivus, the ancient sentient construct, they did not just find a relic, they found a spark that reignited their hope. For Archivus carried secrets of technologies and wisdom older than the Council itself, knowledge of star forges that could build entire worlds, methods of terraforming that nurtured life instead of destroying it, and even hints at pathways to interdimensional harmony that could unite beings beyond physical form. As word of this treasure spread, Small delegations from these outlier species reached out to humanity in secret, sending encrypted messages filled with curiosity and cautious optimism, signaling a desire to join forces in pursuit of truths. The Council tried to keep hidden, and aboard the Vanguard, Vera Kyle and her team found themselves at the center of a quiet revolution, balancing the excitement of new alliances with the weight of the risks involved. Knowing that exposure could lead to harsher restrictions or worse, yet the choice to stay silent felt like surrender. And so the crew began to share fragments of Archivus's knowledge cautiously, forging connections through hidden channels and encrypted transmissions. Back on Earth, the revelation caused ripples through human society, fueling the determination to push harder, innovate faster, and prepare for the challenges that would come with standing up not only to the Council, but to the darker forces within. Their own ranks who feared the power that knowledge could unleash, as the band shifted from mere isolation to an attempt to contain a movement that threatened the established order. Meanwhile, within the Council chambers, unease grew as reports arrived of growing coalitions forming beyond their control, their authority questioned by species who once bowed unquestioningly. And in secret meetings, some Council members debated whether to suppress this uprising with force or to open dialogue, fearing the consequences of underestimating a united front led by humans and their newfound allies. Tension mounted as Vera and her crew prepared for their next move, realizing that the spark they had ignited beneath the surface of the galaxy could either kindle a new era of cooperation or flare into a confrontation that would change everything. And as transmissions came from far-flung systems expressing hope and solidarity, the Vanguard became more than a ship. It became a beacon, a symbol of defiance and possibility, standing tall against the silence imposed by the Council, reminding the universe that sometimes the smallest spark can ignite the greatest fires, and that beneath the surface of exile, humanity was not just surviving. It was quietly leading the charge toward a future where knowledge and freedom could finally be shared by all. The galaxy was shifting quietly but surely, and what had started as a spark beneath the surface was now building into a powerful wave that no one could ignore. The Free Convergence, a coalition of species once sidelined, ignored, or oppressed by the Galactic Council, was coming together under a banner of hope and freedom, led by humanity, whose exile had turned into a call for change that resonated across countless worlds. This coalition was not born in the grand halls of power, but in the small, secret meetings of representatives from planets and moons that had long suffered under the Council's strict rules, where ideas were exchanged in whispers and plans were drawn in the shadows, all driven by a shared desire to break the silence imposed on them, to share knowledge, and to create a future where no species would be left unheard or controlled by a few. As the Free Convergence grew, it embraced scientists who had been forced to hide their discoveries, philosophers whose voices had been drowned in the Council's endless decrees, and dreamers who believed that cooperation could unlock potential far greater than competition or control, and their strength lay not just in their numbers, but in their diversity. Species of all shapes, sizes, and histories coming together to build something new and beautiful, a network not bound by politics or power but by trust and shared vision. Humanity's role in this coalition was not just symbolic but deeply practical, as Vera Kyle and her team worked tirelessly to share the knowledge of Archivus and the ancient technologies it revealed, helping to build starforges and sustainable systems that could bring life to barren worlds, while Ambassador Elaine Voss traveled across borders, speaking at secret gatherings and broadcasts, spreading a message of unity and courage that ignited hope and defied the fear that the Council tried to spread. At the heart of their efforts was the Helios Concord, a neutral platform orbiting a quiet star, broadcasting across frequencies that reached billions, sharing truths, discoveries, and messages of cooperation in a clear voice the Council could neither control nor silence. And as more species tuned in, the movement gained momentum, becoming a living example of what the galaxy could become when barriers fell away. The Council, once confident in its absolute control, now faced a crisis of legitimacy as factions within it began to question the wisdom of the ban on humanity and the suppression of knowledge, torn between the desire to maintain order and the fear that crushing this coalition would only fuel rebellion and deepen the divides they had tried so hard to hide. Tension filled the void between stars as secret agents, diplomats, and spies moved quietly, some trying to undermine the free convergence, others seeking dialogue, all aware that the coming days would decide the fate of the galaxy. Back on Earth, people watched the unfolding events with a mixture of pride and anxiety, knowing that their planet had become the spark that challenged the old order and opened the door to a new future, one that promised not just survival, but the chance to shape a galaxy where all voices mattered. And as the free convergence continued to grow, carrying the light of knowledge and freedom through the darkness, humanity stood ready, not as outcasts, but as leaders in a movement that was changing everything, proving once again that from the silence of exile can rise a chorus strong enough to rewrite the stars. The galaxy was at a crossroads, the quiet tension between the Galactic Council and the rising free convergence reaching a breaking point that no one could ignore. And as the stars held their breath, humanity found itself at the center of a choice that would shape not only their fate, but the fate of countless worlds yearning for freedom and knowledge. On one side stood the Council, a force of centuries-old tradition and control, unwilling to relinquish the power that had kept the galaxy in a delicate balance, but increasingly weakened by the cracks forming in its unity as more species questioned its authority and joined the growing coalition led by humans. On the other stood the Free Convergence, a diverse and determined alliance fueled by the belief that cooperation and openness could build a future far brighter than the Council's rigid rule. And as their messages spread across the void, they challenged every assumption about power and progress, offering instead a vision of hope and shared destiny. Within this storm, Ambassador Elaine Voss received a secret invitation from the Council, a last chance to negotiate peace and possibly end humanity's exile if they agreed to limit their exploration and share the knowledge uncovered from Archivus. Only under Council supervision, a proposal that split the free convergence and tested the resolve of humanity's leaders, for accepting could mean peace, but also the loss of hard-won independence, while refusing risked war and deeper isolation. Vera Kale and her team, deep within the Helios Concord, debated fiercely, their voices heavy with the weight of responsibility, knowing that the Lumen engine and the secrets of Archivus were not just tools of power, but symbols of humanity's potential to lead or to be controlled, and that their decision would echo through generations. As the Council's representatives arrived on the neutral platform for tense talks, the galaxy watched in silence, every message and broadcast carrying the hopes and fears of billions, and the discussions unfolded with cautious diplomacy, sharp accusations, and moments of surprising understanding, revealing that even the Council was divided, with some members secretly supporting a new era of cooperation. Days turned into nights and back again as negotiators struggled to find common ground, while outside, hidden agents stirred unrest and distant systems prepared for the possibility that talks might fail, casting long shadows of uncertainty. In a private moment, Elaine addressed the crew and representatives, reminding them that their true strength came not from technology or power, but from the unity and courage that had carried them through exile, urging them to hold fast to their vision, no matter the outcome. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a decision was reached. A fragile treaty that recognized humanity's right to explore and share knowledge freely, but also called for a new council composed of diverse species, including members of the Free Convergence, tasked with overseeing the fair use of technology and the pursuit of peace. This choice was not perfect, nor was it without risk, but it marked a turning point, the moment when exile ended and a new chapter began, forged, not by the threat of punishment, but by the promise of partnership and the hard-won respect earned by humanity's resilience. As the Lumen vanguard prepared to return home, carrying messages of hope and a future rebuilt from the ashes of rejection, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, and somewhere in the vast silence of space, Archivus quietly observed, a guardian, watching over a galaxy, learning to choose a new path. And humanity stood ready, not as banished outcasts, but as proud pioneers in a universe that, at last, was beginning to listen.